Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we have the patch notes for patch 14.13. This one's gonna be a quick one. They're buffs to Ink Shadow, Sniper, Kaisa, and Built Different, and then they're also nerfing Faded, Ethereal Blades, and Storied Champions. So first things first, we have Rotating Shop infographic over here. They introduced the Rotating Shop a couple of weeks ago, I believe, and these are going to be the new things that are going to be featured. Next up, we have Riot Summer Break. We're taking a pause on TFT during the week of July 4th to unwind, recharge, and maybe push the next rank on the ladder, hyperroll, or keep playing Pengu's Party. This means that patch 14.13 will last 3 weeks until the 17th, which brings patch 14.14. And then I think after that, the next patch is going to be the new set, which is going to be at the end of July. Middle East servers are opening up today. It'd be kind of cool to maybe be the first person to hit Challenger on a server if anyone wants to do that. And then after that, we have Sort by Latest Acquired. New, sort by the latest acquired content on PC and mobile. For mobile, minimize the loadout search field into a button that expands when selected. Next up, we have Systems Golden Item Remover, a quality of life buff for the Golden Item Remover that'll keep your bench space reserved for the most useful of consumables and more. All existing item removers on the player's item bench are turned into Reforgers. That's pretty useful, and if a player would gain new item removers, they are also turned into Reforgers, including from Augments. So this is actually a buff to Golden Remover, and if we look at the stats on it right now, we'll see that it's averaging a 4.46, so it will slightly improve. However, I think this quality of life buff is very, very welcome because it does seem silly to take it and then have all these removers on your bench. Now it's a bit more strategic and just more fun overall, because that's the goal at the end of the day. Next up we have is Prismatic Orbs, so shiny and now ever so slightly more available. Prismatic Orbs are more likely to drop, though still very, very rare. And then next up we have Large Changes, large like the party at Pengu's Place. Traits, we've seen variations of Faded becoming both the most played and highest performing comps in recent tournaments, so we're trying to give it some targeted nerfs to bring down its strongest Faded combination. So Ari's AP bonus is going to be dropped by 3, Syndra damage amp bonus is going to be changed from 11% to 10%, so these might not seem like big changes, but when the Faded bonus is like 200%, 300%, sometimes even higher, it does add up, especially when it goes on potentially 3, 5, or 7, sometimes even 10 units, you know? Ink Shadow, Damage Amp, and Damage Reduction, 5, 15, 20% being changed to 5, 16, 22%. So we're getting a slight Ink Shadow buff. That's going to be great for Kaisa, going to be great for Udyr. And we haven't seen like deep Ink Shadow in quite a bit. Let's take a look at some of the Ink Shadow augments right now, such as the Crest and the Crown. So 4.37, 4.54, nothing too crazy, but I think people don't really take these that often. Next we have Sniper Damage Amp per Hex, 81733, 81835. So this is going to be good for the Ashe comp. Ashe is one of the few comps that actually reaches the 4 or 6 sniper thresholds. Maybe you could do it with Senna. Senna mainly focuses more on Ghostly, and Aphelios comps focus mainly on Faded. So really this is just a buff to the Ashe comps in my opinion, unless you get Sniper Emblem and you're playing like Aphelios or Senna, and then you're like, hey, let me just add in more snipers for fun, and then you get a little bit bigger of a damage bonus. Next up we have is units tier 4, Kaisa attack speed 0.8 to 0.85. She may be the only unit getting changes, but at least it's a buff. Kaisa has fallen out of favor, even in trick shot focused comps, so we're giving her a bit more AS to hit harder and reach that impactful tank blasting cast faster. Definitely a welcome buff. This is actually a sizable buff. Normally when they buff a lot of the carry champs by like 0.05 attack speed, they normally turn from like below average to like really good sometimes. And sometimes when they nerf it, they turn from like the best comp ever to unplayable. It really depends on the champion, but they also did do this small Ink Shadow buff. I don't think this is that impactful. No one really goes for 5 or 7 Ink Shadow. You really only do it when you have an Ink Shadow emblem, so it's not going to affect too many comps. I'd be most excited to see this in all the trick shot comps we used to play before. It'll probably be pretty decent. Since they're not changing too many other things, it might not be enough to go from below average to OP. Next up we have is Augments, Built Different, 2 HP, 220, 300, 380, 480, 240, 330, 420, 530. Built Different has been a completely average augment in the recent patch. We could type it in over here in the data checking on teamfight.lol, and we see here 4.5. I think last week it was 4.49. The week before it was also 4.5, but maybe it's going to be like a 4.4, 4.3 now. They buffed it a little bit, but last patch we fixed a bug that had the on-death part of Behemoth trait failing to trigger if the Behemoths were too far away. With this fix, the strongest version of the Behemoth comp got a lot stronger. We're correcting this now, and a nerf to Shen's Ethereal Blades Hero Augment. Okay, I thought this was talking about Built Different, but not really. But yeah, Built Different has been kind of average, and with the Kaisa buff, that actually makes a pretty big change to this comp, because I think Kaisa thematically is one of the better users of the Built Different augment, and now both Kai'Sa's buffed and build difference buffed, the comp gets a lot stronger. However, it must be noted that there are a lot of different build different comps to play around. You don't have to play around Kai'Sa, you can play around like Ashe, Lilia, pretty much any of the 4 cost units. You could probably make them some sort of carry in a build different comp. Next up we have is Ethereal Blade Shen, ability amp damage 100% to 85, story champion Garen's ability bonus true damage 50% to 45%. So they're nerfing a bunch of the hero augments, but they talked about the Shen thing here because the behemoth comps got a lot stronger, so they need to compensate for the Shen augment. But story champion, this one has been really good for a while, probably a deserved nerf. Artifact items, Curse Blade has been temporarily disabled. Curse Blade had a somewhat cursed track record that has continued into patch 14.13, where the discovery of adding an additional bug has forced our hand in temporarily disabling the artifact ahead of our Tactician's Crown patch. Upon re-enabling it at a later date and with a fix, we aim to significantly buff the item which has struggled to cut through its cursed existence. Let's move on over to items. I'm going to change it from all items all the way to the artifacts. And let's see how Curse Blade actually is. So 4.87, not that great, not great at all. Is it at the bottom? It is at the bottom. Yeah, there are probably better things to kind of go for. I didn't know it was this bad, but that seems pretty bad. Luden's Tempest, 35 to 40 AD, 35 to 40 AP. Let's check out Luden's over here. It is going to be at 4.62, so yeah, pretty well-deserved buff. Prowler's Claw, AD, 30 to 40. Let's check that one out over here. We have 4.58. Are these all? They're near the bottom. So they're skipping Rapid Fire, they're skipping Tricksters, they're skipping Corrupted Vampiric Scepter, but they're buffing Luden's Tempest, Prowler's Claw, and then the last one is going to be, last one is going to be Rapid Fire Cannon. So they really only skip Trickster's Glass, but I think this is always like a niche one because it's useful in pretty much every comp. So I think they're okay with that one being a bit worse than the others. But RFC getting 60 to 75% AS, and all the ones you see here, they're like more situational items. So you want them to feel strong when the situation arises, whereas Trickster, I'm guessing they didn't touch it because you could kind of use this in any comp because you just throw it on a unit, it gives you a copy of them. You could pretty much use that in anything, right? It's best in some sort of 3-star comp. I think that's where you get the most use out of it, but sometimes on your 3-star, you want like perfect items for them. So you want it on like your secondary 3-star unit, if that makes any sense. But small changes, augments. With these augments combined, reroll Dryads getting a nice buff. Yeah, this comp wasn't that great, but Silver Ticket now grants 3 gold. Mulched Dryad damage amp is going to be 5% to 8%. So I guess it's going to be more augment reliant when you go for the Dryad comp. You don't really normally go for the Dryad comp without good augments though, in general, because it is a bit situational. 5-year bash mode, Pengu's Party. The 5-year bash continues with the second patch. With this patch, we have a few balance changes for the additional traits in Pengu's Party. As a reminder, the event ends July 15th, just before our next patch ships, so that's not too long. But traits of the patch, they are going to be nerfing Coven. They're going to be buffing Coven's ability power. They're going to be buffing the mana granted. Imperial, also going to see some buffs. Mascot, oh, I remember that trait. This one's going to be buffed. Are they only doing buffs here? Socialite damage amp is going to be increased as well by quite a bit. Same with the Omnivamp. And then they're fixing a trainer bug. If Namzi's target dies during her cast animation, Namzi will choose a new target to cast at. If you've never played Namzi before, I highly recommend doing so because it's such a cool unit that kind of explodes everything on the entire battlefield. Trainer bug fix. At Trainer 2, Namzi's burn damage reduced from 2% to 1%, and then Yordle's 3-star required 5 to 6. Yordle Vhagar spell damage is going to be changed from 300, 450, 777 to 270, 400, 777. Always dangerous on a 777 nowadays. You don't really want to fly on one of those, apparently. Despite all that, when I book tickets for a trip I'm taking, they still charge me a very high amount to fly on these planes, man. I don't know. Whatever the case, we are moving on to bug fixes. Turn down the lights. House of the Golden Rabbit and Dreams of Earth would now become way too bright. Thank you, finally. Oh my god. I've been waiting for this fix for like a year now. Maybe more than a year. Sometimes my screen just becomes super duper bright and I'm just like, all right, I guess I'm screwed, you know? But finally, they fixed the House of the Golden Rabbit. It's not going to be way too bright anymore when it interacts with another arena. I didn't know what was exactly causing this, but they say it's fixed now. I will be the judge of that. Tattoo of Protection now properly shields based on the unit's max health at the time of casting, and then Talisman of Speed and Might no longer sometimes fail to apply their buffs when traveling to another player's board. Known bug. We caught a visual bug in the monster's attack arena. It's still playable and only impacts stage 1-2, but won't be fixed until a future patch. All right, this patch just went from very boring because it's kind of like a small patch to like one of the best patches ever because they finally fixed my arena. Holy cow. That was like one of the most frustrating things ever. I had it happen in like very important games before and I'm just like, I can't concentrate because I'm just focused on the arena. It made me not want to play it, but I gotta use House of the Golden Rabbit. If I don't use it, who will? After all, the name of the channel is Bunny Muffins. I just realized it sounds like the password on the back of your Wi-Fi router. You know, like the master password, they just choose like 2 random words. I just realized I was in the shower the other day and it kind of sounds like one of those. I didn't even think of that when I came up with the name. But regardless, I hope you all will tune in for the meta snapshot on Friday at bunnymuffins.lol. We'll probably be doing 2 updates for the next patch because it is a 3-week patch. But let me know down in the comments what changes you are most excited for. Did you also use the House of the Golden Rabbit? I think they fixed another one too. It's the Dreams of Earth one. I think that is the best change in the past couple of patches. But that's going to be it for me today. Hope to see you all next time.